He was Governor State Bank. Dr. Ishaq Hussain became the governor of Pakistan's central bank in December 1999. During the next 6 years, he implemented a major program of restructuring of the central bank and steered the reforms of the banking sector, which are now recognized by the World Bank and IMF to be among the best in developing countries. In recognition of his meritorious services, he was conferred the prestigious award of Hilal-e-Imtiyaz by the President of Pakistan in 2003. The Banker magazine of London declared him as the Central Bank Governor for Asia in 2005. He received the Asian Banker Lifetime Achievement Award in 2006. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Ishaq Hussain, a leading educationist and a favorite personality of the students for me and like others. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dr. Ataur Rahman, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here this evening. And after listening to Dr. Ataur Rahman, there's not very much I can really add to the determinants of investment flows in any country. And we seem to be living from day to day, and we have not even planned for the next 4 or 5 years. And that's the reason why we have the energy shortages, we have gas shortages, we're going to have water shortages, we have only 5% of our youth of 17 to 23 at the colleges and universities, and that's also not of the very high quality to compete with the rest of the world. Therefore, we have to go beyond the electoral cycles of any government, because their viewpoint is how to win the elections at the next time. And unfortunately, the policies, programs, and projects go beyond a 5-year period. And there must be continuity in the policies and in the initiatives which were started by the previous government, so this is carried forward. But here, there is a change in the government, and everything which was done by the previous government, without analyzing and evaluating what are the good things which should be retained, consolidated, built upon, and carried forward, we throw everything out of the house and you start all over again, and by the time a new government comes in, we are back to square one. And that's the reason why the countries which were way behind us are overtaking us. In 1969, ladies and gentlemen, you may not know, but the manufactured exports of Pakistan were higher than the manufactured exports of Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia together. In the next 40 years, every one of this country has transformed into a middle-income country. And even a country such as Vietnam, which was completely shattered by a civil war, has now overtaken Pakistan in terms of economic growth, poverty reduction, and exports. Our exports are hovering around $19–20 billion, and we think this is a great achievement. Vietnam's exports in 2007, when I visited them last, were $50 billion. And that is where a country much smaller, much weaker, but highly disciplined, but thinking ahead of the future. In our universities and scientific institutions, instead of welcoming the younger PhDs who are coming from abroad, we try to scare them away. We shun them. We don't want them to come in because those who are sitting in those places feel threatened. And Dr. Atar Rahman mentioned about Korea. In the 1970s and 80s, the Koreans delegation went to the United States and said that any Korean who is working at any university or scientific institution should come back and we will pay them double the salary what they're getting in the United States. And this is how Korea has built itself, that it was the same per capita income as Pakistan in 1960, and look, today it is an OECD country. It is in the ranks of highly developed countries rather than like us at $1,000 per capita income. And the reason was they invested in human resources. I lived in Nigeria for 4 years. Nigeria is one of the major oil exporters of the world. But this is the country which used to be self-sufficient in food. It used to be an exporter of agricultural goods. Is now totally dependent on imports of all food items, of all manufactured items. It does not produce anything. It's the $100 billion were earned between 1973 to 1983 when I was there, and all the money dissipated. So it's not the natural wealth. It is not, please don't pray that Pakistan should get oil. Oil has proved to be cursed for many countries in the world. It is what you invest in human beings, which will lead to the next step of development, and investment will flow in naturally. Our next door neighbor has been known to most of you for business process outsourcing in IT and IT-enabled services. But many of you do not know that the FDA, which is the licensing agency for drugs, Food and Drug Administration of the United States, has opened 2 offices in Delhi and Bombay outside the United States because the number of applications which are coming in from the pharmaceutical companies of India are for patents are exceeding their capacity to handle that sitting from the United States. Dr. Reddy's, Cipal, Ranbaxy, Biocon are now being sought after by GlaxoSmithKline, by Pfizer, by Novartis,